I do have a few things to say about Summa, but that wasn't what I was planning on doing. So I actually have a few things I would like to say. But,
Right. So just to clarify that little point. So peace on earth, and we advance further.
Yeah. No, I mean, there are a couple of things that I do still have, like question. Well, one's a comment, one's a question that I was planning on bringing up while we talked, because we've been having great conversations. I've really been enjoying it. And as I said, this concept I actually am very intrigued with, and I want to play around with and think about. So one comment that one of the things I've said already too that I do find very interesting and appealing is the dynamic nature of the concept, the way it's playing out. And that I really appreciate, because I do think there's sort of this entity-based aspect to a lot of Western philosophy that's problematic. And so I find that very attractive, and the kind of philosophies I'm attracted to tend to have a dynamic ontology, as well as, I mean, sort of like a dualism of an activity and entity ontology in some sense. So that I really appreciate. I do have a question though, and part of it is I think I just may have different questions than the questions your two books, especially your first book, are trying to respond to. So I do appreciate that other people have other questions, particularly coming from the point of view of the Holocaust and so forth, so I sort of understand it. But I guess my question is how this takes as a beginning point that there is such a thing as evil. And I don't know if it also assumes there's a kind of thing as good. Now, if by evil we mean horrible things happening to people or something like that, of course, and the Holocaust is a paradigm example. But I'm wondering, do you understand evil as a metaphysical concept? Is it a kind of reality or lack of reality? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, is it a thing?
I see what you're saying.
Okay, that's my question.
The book alleges to take no preconceptions. It alleges to start with a clean slate. But, you know, we're all human. We're trying, although we try with a clean slate, we never quite start with a clean slate. But I tried to start with a clean slate, no assumption. And of course, the issue you raise is a classic question. Is there such a thing as evil? Or is it just the absence of good? Or is it something very subjective? Okay. And frankly, it's not as if I deal with that subject with certitude. I deal with a lot of uncertitude. I'm sort of finding myself forced into certain positions, given almost everything else that I'm saying, and putting the whole mosaic together. And in putting the whole mosaic together, I'm sort of, I would say, forced into the position of saying that it is a distinct entity juxtaposed against good. But if you stopped me on the street a year before I started writing, I would say, no, really, please leave me alone. You know, like, who really, I didn't have given that much thought. It was more a matter of all the other dynamics sort of forced that position. I'm okay with the position, but I'm not jumping to convert the world to that position. But it's one piece of many in this mosaic.
So the reason I would further ask...
And it's a neo-Gnostic position, right? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so these are genuine questions. I'm really interested.
Right.
They're not critiques or endorsements or anything. They're really just questions. So, but I'm interested then, if there is a notion of good and evil, is the directionality of potentiality in the direction of good? Because that, to me, that's where a normative role can come into this, and I'm trying to understand.
That's what?
So the directionality of potentiality on your theory, is that necessarily toward good?
1,000%.
Okay. So that helps me understand where you're coming from.
I thought that was sort of clear. I mean, okay. And,
No.
right. And again, if you one attempts to propose a concept of everything, you know, you're going to be dealing with thousands of pieces.
Absolutely.
At a minimum. You know, for starters, you know, zillions of pieces, and you want the pieces to fit, you know, and you're hoping that the overall proposition is not just powerful but right, and you keep assessing it, looking at it, and from different lenses, different perspectives, and the first book was published in 1988, and it's gone through 5-6 printings. We haven't changed anything, any of the printings, and then embracing for book number 2, we didn't have to change anything in dovetailing to book number 2, and it seems to work. Let me put it that way. It seems to work no matter what you juxtapose it against. So to me, it's a very powerful proposition. I'm not aware of the competing metaphysics. I'm not aware of it. I keep saying, where is the competing metaphysics? So, you know, from many perspectives, it seems to be a powerful metaphysics to keep as let's call it a potential working proposition, and see how it stacks up.
Well, I guess this is to me where it becomes interesting, because there are competing metaphysics historically, and it's a very interesting question if this metaphysic can offer something where those have problems, and they do have
Correct.
problems. That's why it's interesting.
Right.
So for instance, I mean, one competing metaphysics would be something like that lines, that there's somehow this non-embodied good, and somehow that is something we ought to strive towards. So that's a competitor.
Wait.
I think it's a problematic competitor, so that's why I would like to think about what might this look like differently than that.
No. Is there a
for
competing?
instance.
Is there a competing, all-embracing metaphysical structure?
Plato's system's pretty all-embracing.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Plato's system. So I don't think everyone's jumping to embrace Plato's metaphysics. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case at all.
Well, no, I mean, I think, for better or worse, a great deal of the Western tradition has.
I think
What I'm saying is, where I see potential, I don't mean the pun, in the idea of potentiality, is that it might be an idea that can become sort of an alternate to the kind of metaphysical legacies we have, and what would that look like? And to me, that's a very interesting question. So another way to think about it is, like I said, I do history, so I'm always in history, and I love the losers of history, and I like to consider what an alternative genealogy would have looked like if that losing metaphysic that didn't make the day, if that did become, what would it look like today, is an interesting question to me. So in that vein, I'm thinking, well, just as I like to think about, well, what if Spinoza's metaphysics or Nietzsche's or someone else's, supplanted the incredible hold of Plato and Aristotle's metaphysics on our worldview, what would that look like? In the same way, that's why I find this very compelling. What would it look like to have a metaphysic based on potentiality replace those?
Okay.
So that's where I think,
Okay.
I'm saying there's something interesting here.
Right. So I'm going to take the compliment, and then I'm going to challenge one of the side assumptions. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.
So if you're saying that Aristotelian metaphysics, is that what you're saying?
Oh, Plato mostly, but a combination, sure.
So shorthand what? Plato's metaphysics? I think if you go up to 100 Bard students or 100 Harvard students and say, what's your all-embracing, do you have an all-embracing Gestalt, all-embracing metaphysics? I doubt if one out of the 200 would say Plato's metaphysics. I doubt it. I just doubt it.
Yeah, but I don't think that has anything to do with whether we're conscious of where these are coming. Most people walking around are Cartesian dualists, even if they've never read Descartes.
Yes, exactly.
So what I'm going for is that in 50 years, you go to those 200 students, and a fair number of them say, I embrace the Summa Metaphysics as something concrete. So I'm heading for that. Because I don't see that any metaphysics now is embraced by the educated public. I know academics.
I guess I have to respectfully disagree.
Okay.
As Tammy says, I have to say I agree that there are unwitting Cartesians all around us.
Unwitting. That's unwitting for sure. Unwitting for sure.
And witting Cartesians.
Unwitting for sure, myself included, before I engage in the process. Because that's what we're taught. That's what we're all taught.
Yeah. Bruce first, and then Gennady. Sorry. Bruce has been waiting. Gennady, sorry.
Just a note from our sponsors at Bard College. Apparently, the people are here now who want to come in to convert the hall to its next purpose.
Oh, I
so
see.
we'll need to be, I do want to ask my second question, if I can,
sorry.
because Tammy has touched on it very well. It has to do with this issue of potential, which actually fairly early in our discussions, several of us seemed to accept as a matter of course, and then it became increasingly clear that, in fact, different things were meant by potential. Sometimes you can use it in a social context where you imply not merely power to become, but power to become a particular design. Sometimes it's been used to imply order, but not design, it was said. Sometimes it's been used to refer simply to energy. So that, for example, Gennady's earlier comment that there's something in the cosmos that produces consciousness, well, that's an interesting possibility, but it doesn't seem to me that it implies a one-to-one correspondence. So it appears to be a term that elucidates, but it's another one of those factors that it will be at the play at the back of my mind looking at the question of evolution, precisely because so much freight can be carried by the term or eliminated by a given speaker. So it's just one that I could use clarification on from all players as we proceed. I have assumed that we are all wrestling in one way or another with these questions. But I'll go to Gennady.
I just want to make a very brief comment. When I refer to human reason, I had in mind precisely this. Two different people from different traditions sitting across the table and trying to clarify what the other person means. To me, this is the essence of it. This is the essence of it. There's a wonderful book by Mikhail Bulgakov, The Master and Margarita. And this book ends on a note where Jesus Christ and Pontius Pilate walk on the beam of moonlight and talk. And maybe, the devil in that book says, maybe they will agree on something. Just maybe.
And if not, understand each other better.
And on this cheerful note.
Well, you're partially human reasoning, right? Human reasoning, right? But just a parting shot about Aristotelian or Platonic metaphysics. I mean, I just view them as fatally flawed metaphysics. I think they fail to answer a key question. Where did this divine, who you allege, come from? Where does divine, you're alleging a divine creator, where did this creator come from? You're alleging this primal matter, where did this primal matter come from? It seems to me they're very simplistic. It seems to me they're very unsatisfying. And that would embrace Maimonidean metaphysics, which is an extension of it. And I think it's sort of a bridge to nowhere, respectfully. I mean, they're not here to respond, but it was nice at the moment. Aristotelian metaphysics included the concept that the sun revolves around the earth, by the way, among other things. So these are seriously flawed metaphysics, and I don't believe that they are used as, well, I challenge them. I'm challenging their metaphysics, put it that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you understood the question. I'm not defending Plato. I actually think there's some fallout from accepting that metaphysical position, and that's why I find it would be interesting to think of an alternative. But I wouldn't call Plato's metaphysics simplistic. I think there's some maybe things we could explore that'd be better options. But I just want to say that.
We know they were profound geniuses. We know that, but I believe on that balance, the metaphysics is simplistic. Let me put it that way.
Be that as it may, I'd like to thank you all in the audience for coming. I will hold thanks to all of our participants until later tonight. Our dinner starts very soon, and the good news is that we will no doubt have another very animated discussion there. I'm looking forward to that. And the buses are waiting right now. So thank you all. We'll continue very shortly at dinner.